Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is the 12 families who rule the world. Yeah, there's actually 12 families. I'm not going into a whole lot of background on the families. Instead, I want to talk about the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is not federal, and maybe it doesn't have any reserves. So we're going to talk about that. Mayor Amschel Bauer Rothschilds won. It's a long history, and I'm just going into the brief part of it. Which, by the way, I'll tell you how you can get more information on it. Anyway, he says, "Give me control of the nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws." Well, yes, they in later years did come to care about who makes the laws a whole bunch. Anyway, if you want some good information on how the bankers are destroying America, I'd recommend you watch these two videos. And I think you can watch them free for like the first 3 days. Just go to watchprophecyclub.com and register there. I think it's the first 3 days of watching. You can watch lots of it. We got like 300 DVDs up there. Took us 25 years to make all of them. 2.5. If you look at right in the middle, see the bottom right corner of those pictures, tells you how long it is. 2 hours, 25 minutes, 2 hours, 36 minutes. Each one of them are normally about 2.5 hours. This guy did a wonderful job. Major James Lindsay, U.S. Army officer and a chaplain, came and speak to us about how world bankers are controlling food, clothing, shelter, water, electricity, and create stock market crashes to force debt and become slaves. Slaves to bankers. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so this is January 24th, 2025. Federal Reserve to oppose Trump on cutting rates. Okay, so here's the skinny of it is, and they'll read the details. Trump has asked the Federal Reserve to lower their rates. And the Federal Reserve, which is not controlled by the federal government, it's not controlled by the president. The president has no say-so over it. And the Federal Reserve just says, we don't have to listen to you. Okay, let's talk about that a minute. So he says rate increases are certainly possible, but not his baseline scenario. In 2024, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates by a full percentage point. In December, Fed officials indicated that they were on track to cut interest rates by just 2/4 points in 2025. In other words, not much. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, which was appointed by Trump 4 years ago, said inflation was moving sideways, prompting the bank to consider a, quote, more cautious approach to rate cuts this year. In other words, Trump said, I want you to lower your rates. And they said, take a hike, buddy. You don't tell us what to do. This more hawkish approach to interest rates at the Federal Reserve has led to a sell-off of U.S. government bonds. We'll talk about that. As a result, the 10-year Treasury bond is trading at 4.5% above lows of 3.6% in September. The constructive view on fixed income is not predicated on the Federal Reserve cutting more from here. Now, let's jump in the mud. 11 reasons why the Federal Reserve is bad. This comes from Most Important News, Mike Snyder, good friend of mine. Matter of fact, he's been a speaker at the Prophecy Club. Good guy. The Federal Reserve is an institution that was designed to drain wealth from U.S. taxpayers and transfer it to the global elite, the 12 banking families. In other words, the devil came not but for to kill, steal, and destroy. That's what he does. That's all he does. And if he's doing anything good, it's only to do bad. Okay? So the article goes on to say, have you ever wondered why a sovereign nation, America, such as the United States, has to borrow United States dollars from anyone? Well, we shouldn't. Have you ever wondered why a sovereign nation, such as the United States, does not even issue its own currency? We should. Matter of fact, the Constitution tells us to. We're not obeying the Constitution. Have you ever wondered why we allow a group of unelected private bankers to run our economy? The truth is that our financial system, here it is centrally controlled, centrally managed by a group of banking oligarchs. What's an oligarch? It means these are very few in number, they're extremely wealthy, and they rule the planet. Not just Federal Reserve, not just America. They rule the planet, and they report directly to Lucifer and to his fallen angels. Anyway, It's centrally controlled, centrally managed by a group of banking oligarchs who oversee a constantly expanding debt spiral, okay, which could come crashing down at any time they say so. If the American people truly understand that how our system works, they would be protesting in the streets right now. The following are 11 reasons why the Federal Reserve is bad. Now, why don't we understand this? Because they don't want us to understand it. These are the people that kill presidents. These are the people that raise up kings and put down kings, they think. Now, we know the Lord really does that. But he gives that authority to them because Adam and Eve lost it. Okay, let's go on. Number one, the Federal Reserve was created as a way to enslave the U.S. government. In fact, the Federal Reserve System literally could not function without U.S. Treasury bonds. U.S. government debt is at the very core of the system, and our federal government is now trapped in a debt spiral from which it can never possibly escape because the system is operating exactly as it was designed by Lucifer and has been operating that way since 1913. Now, as I said, not many people know this, but there is a plan. The White Hats have a plan to replace it, to go around it. And I think the death of the dollar, where Shane Warren was shown in a vision that the dollars were blowing in the wind, worthless as leaves, is part of the old system has to crash and burn before you bring in the new system. Have you ever heard the old saying that says, if it's not broken, don't fix it? Okay. So first, the old system has to be broken. Now, frankly, I was hoping that as soon as Trump came in, the old system would be replaced by the new system. I was afraid that the second option is what's going to happen, and it looks like we're about to get the second option, which is the old dollar has to crash and burn or be blowing in the wind, worthless as leaves, in order to get the new system. But that's what they're doing. Now, he doesn't know that. Most people don't know that. And he's, matter of fact, I get my information on that from finalwakeupcall.info. All right, let's go on. So, the government debt is at the very core of the system, and our federal government is now trapped in a debt spiral from which it can never possibly escape because the system is operating exactly as it was designed. Our national debt has been rising at an exponential rate, and that will continue to be the case until either the current system collapses, or we adopt an entirely new system. And the plan is to adopt an entirely new system. 2, the individual Federal Reserve banks are not federal at all. Correct. In fact, on the official website of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, it is openly admitted that the Federal Reserve banks are not a part of the U.S. federal government, and that private banks, quote, hold stock in the Federal Reserve banks and earn dividends. The Federal Reserve banks are not, this is from their website, not part of the Federal Reserve government, that they exist because of an act of Congress in 1913. Their purpose is to serve the public. So is the federal private or public. Is the Fed private or public? The answer is both. While the Board of Governors is an independent government agency, the Federal Reserve banks are set up like private corporations. Okay, I'm going to break this down so you get it here in just a second. Stay with me. Member banks hold stock in the Federal Reserve banks and earn dividends. 3, why does the Federal Reserve issue our currency? Why does a group of independent international bankers issue American currency and then charge us interest on it? Why? Because we were tricked in 1913. You should hear the whole story. Everybody had gone home for the weekend, and there was some of the, I believe it was senators, might have been House representatives. Anyway, small group of people stayed there and signed this after everybody had gone home. A set-up deal. The U.S. Constitution explicitly gives Congress the power to issue our currency, not to the Federal Reserve. The Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof in foreign coin, and fix the standard weights and measures. We don't even use gold and silver as our means of exchange today. It's coming again, though. 4, the Federal Reserve creates money out of thin air. That's right. I mean, it used to be they could just print the money. They don't even have to print it anymore. Now it's just digits in a computer. I asked Google AI about this, and this is what I was told. Yes, the Federal Reserve creates money out of thin air by increasing the money supply. In other words, they just decide that they're going to print more money, and they print it. Or they enter more digits into a computer. Simple as that. How do we get more money? We have to work by the sweat of our brow. This process is called creating money out of thin air because it involves adding funds to the economy without printing currency. 5, the Federal Reserve devalues our currency. Since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, the U.S. dollar has lost more than 96% of its purchasing power. Case in point. I can remember going to elementary, starting in probably the 4th grade. Every morning, my mom would give me 2 quarters, and that bought me a hamburger, a Coke, and French fries. And it bought me the hamburger, Coke, and French fries till I was out of high school. But I just recently went into Whataburger, and I ordered a hamburger. And by the way, I was buying Whataburgers back then, too. I bought a hamburger, French fries, and Coke, $14. So our money has gone from 50 cents to $14 for the same hamburger, French fries, and Coke. That's what we're talking about. 96% of his purchasing power. Who got it? International bankers. What'd they do with it? They bought elections. They bought senators and congressmen. They bought anything and everything that they could buy. Car dealerships. They're trying to buy up car dealerships now all across the nation. Most of the world is owned by them. Go look up BlackRock, State Street. What's the other one? BlackRock, State Street. There's a third one. The truth is that just a 2% inflation rate, and it's like 10% now, 9%, just a 2% inflation rate will wipe out half of our purchasing power within a single generation. In the chart below, I'll show you, you can clearly see that the beginning of the rapid rise of inflation in the United States coincided with the creation of the Federal Reserve. It all started here. Look on the right side. Excuse me. If you look at bottom left corner, 1808, and you see the red line pretty much stays the same until 1976. That's when our interest rates hit 22%. And it's continued to go up and up and up. Now, what that's showing you is that the value of the dollar has gone down and down and down. Let's go on. Number 6. The Federal Reserve manipulates the U.S. economy by setting interest rates. By moving rates higher or lower, the Federal Reserve has the power to create economic growth or destroy it. I'm going to say something else. They also cause the stock market to go up and down. If you think it is totally not controlled, then you're misunderstood. You're misinformed. Through inflation, deflation, through wars, crises, they have taken our wealth away. You're saying 12 families have stolen the wealth of an entire nation? No. They've stolen the wealth of the entire world, not just America. By moving rates higher or lower, the Federal Reserve has the power to create economic growth or destroy it. True. They have the power to inflate massive economic bubbles and to pop them. Most Americans believe that our presidents run the economy. Not true. It's the reason I'm saying Trump is not in charge of this. He's not in charge of the money. Now, there is a plan to replace the Federal Reserve where he, or people that listen to him, would be in charge. The Federal Reserve has far more control over the economy than the White House does. As you can see below, every recession since World War II has come after a period of rising interest rates, as you can see here. See, in the 1980s, there was a lot of inflation, and look, there you go. Now let's go on. Number 7, the Federal Reserve also controls the national money supply. They can pump trillions of dollars into the economy or pull trillions of dollars out of the economy without being accountable to anyone. Now, since we're talking about money, I guess this would be a good time to say, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm doing a bad job, but it just seems like ever since we were getting close to the election, Prophecy Club has gone into a financial difficult area. So if God has blessed you and you can help us, we really need it now. I just looked at our bank balance and I have no savings. I have nothing to stop it from hitting the red. And by the time you watch this program, we may have hit the red in the account. And of course, that means that we have lots of things bouncing, lots of big problems. So if God has blessed you and you can help Prophecy Club, we would really appreciate it right now. This can have absolutely disastrous consequences. For example, inflation started getting wildly out of control after the Federal Reserve dramatically increased the size of the money supply back during the pandemic. Here's proof. Now, the pandemic hit in, 2015, 2016? Look what happened. Okay, you see it gone up. Let's go on. The Federal Reserve has become far, far too powerful. Our financial markets swing up and down whenever the Federal Reserve says it will. A federal official makes an important statement, and every man, woman, and child in the entire country is directly affected by the decisions the Federal Reserve Board makes. Boom. True. I mean, we see them hang on. Every time Federal Reserve has a meeting, the whole news hangs on what they're going to say. Ron Paul told MSNBC that he believes that the Federal Reserve has actually become more powerful than Congress. Sadly, he's right. The regulation should be on the Federal Reserve. We should have transparency of the Federal Reserve. You know, the Federal Reserve has never been audited. Why? Because they're above president. They're above the United States. They're above Congress. They can't be touched. They can create trillions of dollars to bail out their friends or to win elections. And we don't have we don't even have any transparency of this. They're more powerful than our Congress. The Federal Reserve is dominated by Wall Street and New York banks. That's not exactly accurate. The Federal Reserve is controlled, it's Lucifer, fallen angels, the 12 banking families, the Illuminati, like that. I don't know, maybe I should go into some of the hierarchy, but it's such a web. It's such evil, such filth. I hate to even talk about it. It makes me want to wash out my mouth with soap. But the Federal Reserve is controlled by the evil banking families. And the Federal Reserve then controls Wall Street and the New York banks. Federal Reserve is in control. Matter of fact, if Trump really wants to clean America, the first thing he ought to do is clean out the Federal Reserve. And I don't know what that means or how to do that, but good luck with that. Anyway, the New York representative is the only permanent member of the Federal Open Market Committee, while the other members rotate. The truth is that the Federal Reserve Bank of New York has been the most important of the regional federal banks by far, and in turn, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York has been dominated by Wall Street and the major New York banks. I think it's the other way around. Federal Reserve tells them what's going to happen. Number 10, the Federal Reserve has completely eliminated minimum reserve requirements for our banks. Now, what does that mean? It means that, let's back up. Let's say the bank has 10 silver coins. A farmer comes in and says, look, I need to borrow a couple of those silver coins because I need to plant, and I don't have enough money to plant. And so he gives 2 coins. That means he has 8 more to loan out. That's not the way it works. It's Federal Reserve, and I'm not real good at this, fractional reserve banking. That means if he has 1 silver coin in his possession, he can loan out 9 more that he doesn't have. Wait a minute, how can he loan out something he doesn't have? Yeah, that's the point. He can't, but they've been doing this since, I don't know, long time, probably since 1913. Probably, I don't know. But it's called fractional reserve banking. What this is saying, they no longer have to have the one silver coin to loan out the 9 silver coins. They don't have to have a silver coin at all. They just make a loan. Okay, so now let's talk about that. So they loan out 10 silver coins. But the guy decides, rather than planting the seeds, I don't need to plant them for a couple more weeks. I'm going to put those 10 silver coins I borrowed over here, and I'm going to put that in another bank. Now he put 10 silver coins in another bank. Guess what that bank can do? They don't loan out the 10. They loan out 10 for every one they have. So now, times 10, they can loan out 100 silver coins. But let's say those 100 silver coins get taken over to Bank C and deposited there. They can now loan out 1,000. So you see, it turns into a giant bubble. There's nothing behind it. What this is saying is the Federal Reserve has now completely eliminated minimum reserve requirements for the banks. So we've got this great big bubble, and there's nothing backing it. That means our dollar can crash any day they say it's going to crash. They're in charge of it. That's the reason the dollar can be worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. Oh, they wouldn't do that. Oh, yes, they would do that. See, when they're in charge and they're still getting lots and lots of money from loaning us our own money, they're willing to let it go on. But see now, Trump has come along and killed their CBDC aspirations, and he's told the World Economic Forum he doesn't believe in their Green New Deal, and he doesn't believe in them at all, and they're not in charge. He's going to take over, basically what he said. And the bankers are saying, oh, yeah? Watch what we do to the dollar. So my guess is, I said guess, God has not told me, my guess is in the next few weeks to next few months, we're going to see the dollar crash. And it's going to crash hard. And like Lindsey Williams said, if your wealth is in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. In other words, nothing. So if your wealth is in some kind of a paper, in my opinion, you're in danger. That's the reason I'd suggest you call 800-200-GOLD. If you have an IRA, that's paper. 401k, well, I shouldn't say it's paper. It may be paper. Let's put it that way. 401k, IRA, it may be paper. Stock market, may be paper. Any of those that, if you don't have something in your hand other than paper, I think you're risky. I think you should have yourself some prepper bars for emergency. I think you should have yourself some silver coins for emergency. I don't have much. Federal Reserve has completely eliminated minimum reserve requirements for their banks. In other words, there's nothing backing our dollar. Our dollar can crash and burn any day they say it's going to. And with Trump, he has now made them mad. He has made them angry. And you can count on it. Here shortly, our dollar's about to crash. They're not in charge anymore. That's what he basically said. And they said, oh, we're not in charge? Well, let me just show you what we could do. So they're about to crash the system. Fractional reserve banking has always been a way that the bankers have conned the public. But now they've gotten rid of minimum reserve requirements altogether. This is literally insane. No, it's actually very, very smart. See, these are evil people that want to rule the world to get control. They don't need money. They can enter more zeros. They don't need more money. They've got all the money in the world. They want control so they can force every knee to bow and to take the mark of the beast and to worship their man, the Antichrist. That's what we prophecy students know that the rest of the world doesn't know. 11, Federal Reserve is not accountable to the voters. And Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is flaunting the fact that he cannot even be fired by President Trump. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell had a clear, direct response when asked during a press conference Thursday that if he would step down if he was asked to do so by President Trump. He said no. Whose term his chair ends in 2026. He can't be fired. You know, there should not be a person on this planet that can't be replaced. But Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve can't be replaced. But what the plan is to go around them. Can't shut them down. So you go around, you make a whole new financial system. That's what finalwakeupcall.info says. And by the way, I do not recommend other things on that site. But he's got that one article that's a really good article. Okay, so let's go on. When asked to elaborate if he would be legally required to leave, he again said no. Powell later said it is not permitted under the law for the president to fire or demote him or any of the other Federal Reserve governors with leadership positions. Why? They're not part of the federal government. They're not paid by the federal government. They're paid by international bankers. Powell's term will eventually end, but until then, he can do whatever he wants. Should we have some way to keep them accountable? Yes, but we don't. After all, they have an incredible amount of power over us. Shouldn't we have at least a little bit of power over them? We should, but we don't. Nobody knows what is really going on inside the Federal Reserve because we aren't allowed to see. There's never been an audit of the Federal Reserve. You want to eliminate the Federal Reserve, you go around them. Unfortunately, the truth is that they desperately do not want light to be shined on the elaborate shell game that they're running. How have you ever wondered if it was just a coincidence that the personal income tax was implemented just about the same time the Federal Reserve was created? I want to remind you that Joseph's Kitchen still has site-wide free shipping. I don't think they've ever done this, but this is a really big discount on everything. Right now, everything there, you can get free shipping on it. And since a lot of the things that they ship, the wheat and all that sort of stuff, are really heavy. I mean, a lot of times they come on pallets. So to get free shipping, that's a big deal. Joseph's, with an S, kitchen.com. Also, if you watched the program yesterday, I interviewed Jonathan Rose, and he's with Genesis Gold Group or prophecyclubgold.com. Get a hold of him, 800-200-GOLD. Also, if you want some prepper bars, there's the phone number. And if you want to, now for the first time, if you have crypto and you want to put that into an IRA, for the first time, they've just set it up, you can call these guys, or actually you go to the website, blocktrustira.com. blocktrustira.com, and it'll tell you all about it. If you don't even understand crypto, he says that place will help you to understand it.